In the fall of 1990, in the small town of Stonebrooke, nestled somewhere between too small to care and too big to escape, a quiet boy named Eli Turner walked into Jefferson Middle School for the first time. He had a backpack twice his size, shoes that squeaked with every step, and glasses held together with a band-aid on the bridge. He didn't say much. He didn't need to, because in Stonebrooke, silence wasn't protection. It was an invitation. They called him everything. E.T. Not just for his initials, but for his big ears and awkward walk. Library rat, because he always sat alone during lunch and read books about space and numbers and things no one cared about. But the name that stuck the most was Nobody. Hey Nobody, they'd shout. Still trying to build a spaceship to escape us? And every day Eli just nodded, as if the answer was yes. He sat in the corner of the library during recess, tracing constellations in his notebook. The librarian, Mrs. Wendell, would often say, "Eli, you've got the soul of a scientist, or maybe a philosopher." But what she didn't know was that Eli wasn't just dreaming of stars. He was trying to disappear, because every single day the bullying got worse. It wasn't just teasing. It was Hunter McCall, the golden boy of the school. Tall, athletic, loud. He was the kid who could do no wrong in the eyes of teachers, even when he was shoving Eli into lockers or snapping his pencils in half during math class. Hunter had a gang of friends who followed him like shadows. Jason, Brett, and Tim, always laughing, always watching. One day, Hunter cornered Eli near the school dumpster. "You know why no one likes you, Turner? Because you talk like a robot and smell like crayons." He laughed and shoved Eli's notebook into the garbage. Eli reached for it, but Hunter held him back. Then he did something Eli never forgot. He leaned in and whispered, "This school's mine. People like you don't belong here." That night, Eli walked home in the rain, soaked, bruised, and empty. At dinner, his mom asked if everything was okay. He said yes. He always said yes. But that night, he opened his notebook, the one he'd rescued from the trash, and on the last page, he wrote something no 12-year-old should ever have to write. "One day, I won't be here anymore, but I'll be more than you ever imagined." By the end of 8th grade, Eli had vanished, not physically but emotionally. He stopped raising his hand, stopped reading during lunch, stopped responding to anyone. He moved through the halls like a ghost, until one day in May, he didn't show up at all. No goodbye, no transfer papers, just gone. Rumors swirled for a while. He ran away. His family moved without warning. Maybe he got sent to military school, but no one knew for sure. And eventually, no one cared. 30 years later, the class of 1993 was planning their reunion. Jefferson Middle had been turned into a community center. The reunion was going to be held in the old gym, where so many dances, dodgeball games, and memories had taken place. People were excited. Even Hunter McCall, now a real estate agent with a podcast and a receding hairline, had RSVP'd. It was all coming together, until someone noticed a strange RSVP card had been returned. In handwriting so precise it looked like it had been typed. Name Eli Turner. Yes, attending. Special note. I've been waiting 30 years for this. Hunter laughed when he heard. Eli? That Eli? Doubt he even remembers us. But something in his voice cracked. Something nervous. Because deep down, even Hunter knew, people don't forget pain. Not real pain. And especially not someone who vanished without a trace. The gym was filled with faces time hadn't quite erased. A little grayer, a little slower, but still familiar. Old class photos lined the tables. The punch was spiked with cheap whiskey. Laughter echoed against the walls. And then, the music stopped. The gym doors opened, and in walked a man in a black coat. Slim, clean-shaven, eyes like ice. He didn't say a word, but everyone turned. It was him, Eli Turner. He scanned the room, expression unreadable. Then he walked over to the class photo, 1993. He pointed to Hunter McCall. then to himself, then turned around and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Hunter, it's good to see you again. I never got to thank you." "Thank me? For what?" Eli smiled. "For making me who I am." He pulled out a folded newspaper clipping, held it up. It was dated 2 weeks earlier. Headline: Anonymous Billionaire Purchases Stonebrooke Tech Campus. Plans Major Redevelopment. Hunter blinked. "Wait, you bought the campus?" Eli's voice dropped to a whisper. "No, Hunter. I bought the town." And then he walked toward the exit, paused, turned back one last time and said, "But I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for the truth." And just like that, he was gone. After 30 years of silence, Eli Turner returned to the town that broke him. And with just a few quiet words, "I bought the town. I'm here for the truth." He shattered the illusion that time had healed everything. Stonebrooke, it turned out, had wounds that never closed, and Eli had come back to open them. Word spread fast. The boy once called nobody was now somebody. A billionaire, a tech investor, a mystery. Some said he'd struck gold in AI. Others said he sold a patent for a new medical imaging technology. But no one really knew. What they did know was that Eli Turner was back, and he had plans. Eli walked the old halls the next day, room by room. He ran his fingers across scratched desks, stared at the faded Rules of Respect poster still taped to the counselor's door, stopped at locker number 113, his old one, still there, still dented, still bearing the faint white outline of a sticker someone once used to spell Nerd Zone. He smiled, then turned, and began taking photos. At City Hall, Hunter McCall was pacing. He'd spent the last 20 years building his image: real estate mogul, town council advisor, keynote speaker for high school sports fundraisers. But now, Eli Turner had returned with power, wealth, and something Hunter never expected. A reason. Hunter didn't know what that truth was, but he could feel it closing in. Eli's first official act was announced: Stonebrooke Legacy Project. He was funding a full redevelopment of the old Jefferson campus into a youth tech incubator, therapy center, and scholarship office. Applause followed. Some stood, others looked confused. But Eli's speech that night clarified everything. "When I left this place, I promised myself one thing: that no child would ever sit alone again, that no one's pain would be dismissed, and that silence would no longer be safe for bullies." There was a pause. Then his eyes met Hunter's across the room. "But before I can rebuild, I have to dig up what was buried." Mrs. Wendell still lived on the edge of town. The same glasses, the same wool cardigans. She smiled when she saw him. "Eli Turner, I always knew you'd make it big." He smiled back, but his eyes were searching. "I need your help. I'm looking for something." "What's that, dear?" "My notebook. The one I always carried." Mrs. Wendell paused. "After you left, the janitor found it in the dumpster. Kept it. Figured someone might come looking someday." She opened a drawer, pulled it out. Still red, still worn. Eli opened it slowly. Inside were drawings, star maps, notes, and one page folded in half. He opened it and gasped. It was a letter, addressed to Eli, written in neat, slanted cursive. Signed, "From someone who saw and did nothing." It read, "I watched what they did. I should have spoken up. I didn't. I'm sorry. You deserved better. You deserved everything. Please don't let the truth stay buried. JT, Jason Thompson, one of Hunter McCall's friends." Eli remembered him, the one who laughed the least, who always hung back when the others got rough. Jason had moved away the summer after 8th grade. But what had he seen? And why leave a note, but never speak out? Eli hired a private investigator. What he found was unexpected. Jason had died 10 years ago in a motorcycle crash in Arizona. Unmarried, no kids. But in his belongings, recovered by police, was an envelope marked confession. The contents had never been made public, but the police report said it referenced a boy, a fire, and a cover-up. Eli froze. There had been a fire in 1991, the back wing of Jefferson. Everyone assumed it was electrical. But what if it wasn't? What if something or someone had started it? Hunter sits in his booth like nothing's changed. But when Eli appears, his posture stiffens. "We were kids, man. You're really gonna drag this out?" Eli leans in. "What happened the night of the fire?" Hunter looks away. "That was nothing. Just an accident. You don't know what you're talking about." Eli stares at him, voice cold. "I think you do, and I think Jason tried to tell me. I think he died before he could." Hunter laughs nervously. "You're not gonna get what you're looking for. Just leave it alone." Eli stands. "You already know me, Hunter. I don't leave things alone." He reaches a blocked-off doorway. On the wall, in faded red spray paint, "Nobody's Don't Tell." He shines his light across the floor. Faint outline, burn marks, and then something else. Half-melted plastic, cracked badge. He bends down. It reads, "Maintenance, property of A. McCall." Hunter's father had been the school's head custodian in 1991, and that's when Eli realized the fire wasn't just an accident. It was a message, and someone in town had killed to keep the past buried. For 3 decades, Eli Turner lived with silence. The silence of a school that forgot him. The silence of classmates who watched and never spoke. And the silence of a fire that no one ever explained. But now, 30 years later, that silence was breaking. Piece by piece. Memory by memory. Until all that was left was the truth. When Eli found the melted badge stamped McCall, a door inside him opened. One he had spent years bolting shut. Because that name belonged to Arthur McCall, the janitor. And more importantly, Hunter's father. In 1991, Arthur had been in charge of school maintenance. Friendly, quiet. The kind of man who fixed sinks and reset fuse boxes without making a sound. But there were rumors that he had been strict with Hunter, that he had drunk more than he should have, and that he kept secrets. Eli went to the town archives. There, hidden in a cardboard box labeled Structural Damage, 1990s. He found the original fire report. It listed the source as undetermined electrical malfunction. But handwritten in the margin, barely legible, was a note from the original inspector. Odd burn pattern. Door locked from outside. Request further review. It had never been followed up. Why? Because a week later, the inspector resigned. The 2 men stood alone in the old boiler room. The charred walls still held a faint scent of smoke. Eli stared at the burnt floor, then looked up. "Tell me the truth. All of it." Hunter was sweating. His voice cracked. "I didn't know. I didn't know it was gonna happen. We were just messing with you, man." Eli said nothing. Hunter sighed. "We locked you in. It was a dare. Jason said he saw you go in here with your dumb notebook. We thought we'd scare you. But my dad, he found out. Told me to shut up. Said if anyone asked, it was a circuit fault. That night, he came back here alone. I think he tried to cover it up. He didn't mean for it to catch fire. But it did." Eli had always thought he'd simply faded away. That his disappearance was choice. Escape. But the truth? He had been trapped in the boiler room for 2 hours. And if it weren't for a janitor from a different shift who heard coughing, he wouldn't have survived. But Arthur McCall made sure the records never mentioned Eli, paid off the inspector, blamed faulty wiring, and walked away clean. Eli's parents had moved him out of town days later. No statements, no lawsuit, just silence. Because the real pain was never physical. It was emotional, psychological. It was being told through whispers and lies that he didn't matter. But Eli did matter. He always had. And now, with the Stonebrooke Legacy Center complete, he was finally giving that truth a voice. Eli stepped up to the microphone. He didn't read from notes. He didn't smile for the cameras. He just spoke. When I was 12, I was locked in a room and forgotten. The fire that nearly ended my life wasn't an accident. It was a warning, a message to stay silent. He paused. The crowd was frozen. But I survived. And I spent the next 30 years becoming the man I needed back then. This center is for kids like I was. Quiet, different, dreamers, survivors. If you're watching this, and you feel like nobody, I want you to know you're somebody. You always were. The room erupted in applause. Reporters wept. Parents hugged their kids. And in the back, an elderly woman, Mrs. Wendell, the old librarian, smiled through tears, told you he had the soul of a philosopher. Following Eli's public testimony, Hunter resigned from all public positions. His father's cover-up, now public record, became the subject of local investigation. But Eli didn't press charges. When asked why, he simply said, "Justice isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's just being seen." "Are you the guy who built this place?" Eli smiles. "I suppose I am." "Why?" "Because I used to need a place like this." "Do you still need it?" Eli pauses, looks around the room. Sunlight, books, quiet peace. "Not anymore, but I think someone else might." The child nods, then walks to a shelf. Eli opens a drawer, places his red notebook inside, closes it, and walks out into the light. Sometimes the people the world forgets are the ones who return to heal it. Eli Turner was nobody until he became somebody for everyone else who needed him. Dedicated to every child who thought they didn't matter. You do. This is Zen Stories, where stories come to life. Unfiltered, unforgettable, and full of raw emotion. Each video dives deep into mysterious events, vanishing acts, shocking discoveries, and stories that will keep you hooked until the final twist. Like and subscribe for daily uploads that will move you, shock you, and stay with you long after the screen fades to black. See you tomorrow.